home opener time. We look at all the matchups between the Green Bay Packers and the New Orleans Saints. And NFL injuries, big injuries, what's going on? And can someone please tell me what in the hell is going on with my left tackle, David Bakhtiari? All that and more on this special Friday edition of Green and Gold, till I'm dead and cold. All right, everybody. We're going to dive right in here. First thing I want to talk about is the rash of really, really bad and really, really big name injuries that are happening. And I don't know, maybe there is something to this turf thing they keep talking about. I know that it happens more on turf. We just know it's more dangerous. Grass is safer. And personally, I think that the NFL Players Association, Players Union is gonna get involved with this. I think sometime soon you could have a strike or a boycott until the remaining 12 teams or however many it is decide to get rid of their turf. So far, you've got the biggest story in the offseason was Aaron Rodgers going to the New York Jets. Well, that ended 4 plays into Monday Night Football. I mean, just that one alone turned heads. And it also affected our team if you are buying into the whole Dave is now boycotting turf stuff. Nick Chubb, one of the most gruesome injuries I've ever seen, almost looked identical to the one he had at Georgia. He's now out for the year. And then just the other day at practice, Trevon Diggs, the all-pro cornerback for the Dallas Cowboys, is now done for the season because of an ACL tear at practice. This is getting a little out of hand. I think that the NFL really needs to look at this. They need to look at why these injuries are happening so much. Now, look, I'm the last one to say, make the game 100% safe. I hate that. Football is a contact. No, football is a collision sport. And I want to keep it that way. Love me, hate me for it, I don't care. But we don't have to do things unnecessarily. So moving forward, I don't know what all these teams and their organizations have to do to make sure that their best players are able to be on the field on Sundays. How many of them can you blame on the turf? I don't know. Obviously, the one with Aaron Rodgers on Monday Night Football looked like it was turf related. On to our own injuries. So today's Friday injury report that came out, we'll go over both teams. So out for the Green Bay Packers is our left guard, Elgin Jenkins. We know that. My gut tells me he doesn't come back until after the bye. We've got the Saints this week. We've got the Lions next week at home. And then after that, we're on the road to the Las Vegas Raiders to see our old friend Davante Adams. After those 3 games, we're on a bye. And then we come back and we play at the Denver Broncos. All of those, by the way, are winnable games. You know, if you've watched any NFL this year, you know that Green Bay is more than capable of winning every single one of those games on their schedule up to that point. I would honestly hold off with as deep as our O-line is. I would keep Jenkins out until after the bye. It's just safer that way. Some other names that are trending in the right direction. Aaron Jones, thank God. Christian Watson, thank God again. LVN, Lucas Van Ness, all seem to be trending in the right direction, but are still questionable. The last name that's a little bit concerning is Jair Alexander. Man, when it rains, it pours. Jair somehow hurt his back. I don't know if it was at practice or what, but he showed up on the injury list today. He was a limited participant, but is now questionable for the game on Sunday. The Saints aren't in any better shape because the Saints are without their starting running back, Alvin Kamara, who's on suspension. They're now without their backup running back, former Green Bay Packer Jamal Williams. He's out with a hamstring injury. And now they're one of their center fielders, along with Tyrann Mathieu, Marcus May, their safety, starting safety, is out. And Marcus May has played just about every single snap on defense this year for the New Orleans Saints. So that is a huge loss for them. He's suspended for a violation of PEDs. On top of that, you've got 2 more injuries to the secondary. cornerback Paulson Adebo and safety Ugo Amadi are also out. I'm sorry, not out. They're questionable. So I don't know if they're going to be 100%, but Adebo is the cornerback opposite Marshawn Lattimore. And that may hurt them if Christian Watson is indeed back, because now you have Dobbs, Watson, and Jaden Reed all on the field, and you're down a starting safety that can sometimes drop in and play nickel, and you could be down your number 2 cornerback, obviously Marshawn Lattimore being their number 1 cornerback, and he's playing. Another injury that seems like it's popped up here is Foster Moreau, their tight end. He's had a lot of snaps this year, played well. Juwan Johnson, their starter, and the old man, Jimmy Graham, former New Orleans Saint, former Green Bay Packer, now back with the Saints. 36-year-old Jimmy Graham would step in there as the backup tight end to Juwan Johnson. Now that it looks like Foster Moreau's not playing, they're listing him as doubtful. So that's your rundown of the injuries before the game, and we'll get into what some of those matchups might look like with said injuries. Next thing I want to talk about is our left tackle, David Bakhtiari. I don't know what's going on, and I guess that's the most concerning thing, because I tell you what, these organizations are about as forthcoming as a mafia snitch in the witness protection program. It's ridiculous. You can't get anything out of these people. David Bakhtiari, obviously one of his best friends, Aaron Rodgers, tears his Achilles tendon on the 4th play of the game. David Bakhtiari, as we all know, has massive knee issues. There's just problems with it from the ACL tear from 3 years ago. And he's now had 3 surgeries on it and multiple more cleanups. They have to drain it. I think he's had like 30-some knee drains. So I have no doubt that he actually has an injured knee. Could he have played at Atlanta without necessarily making the knee a whole lot worse? I don't know. Is it really about the turf? And if it is, I mean, we've got games against the Lions and the Vikings and the Panthers and the Giants that are all on turf. If he plans on sitting those games out, look, folks, I know that a lot of people get worried when you move on from someone who's so good. We were that way with Brett Favre. We were that way with Aaron Rodgers. We were that way with Devontae Adams. Life goes on. The Green Bay Packers have a very deep and talented offensive line room. If we move on from David Bakhtiari at the end of the year, which we might do anyway because of his contract, but if we're in this position where every single week he's on the questionable list and he's a game time decision, that makes it almost impossible to put in the game plan you want to put in. If David Bakhtiari is healthy, you probably are going to call the game a little bit differently, both from the offensive and the defensive side of the ball. If it is about the AstroTurf, then I say we move on. Move Zach Tom over to left tackle, or keep him at right tackle and promote up Rasheed Walker. If you move Zach Tom to left tackle, you could put Walker or Nyman at right tackle. I mean, you have options. You have Sean Ryan, who can come in and play guard if Elgin Jenkins is hurt. They're using Royce Newman right now. There's any number of guys that we can train up. The Green Bay Packers do a phenomenal job of training up offensive linemen who aren't first-round draft picks. Green Bay Packers, and you guys might not want to hear this, but the Green Bay Packers have a top 10 offensive line without David Bakhtiari. They're probably top 5 with him. So take that for what you will. All right, let's get into the game. So let's talk about some of these matchups. The Green Bay Packers have the 2nd highest scoring offense in the NFL right now, 31 points a game. The Saints have the 25th highest scoring offense at 18 points a game. That's a little deceiving considering New Orleans has way more yards from scrimmage than Green Bay does. The biggest problem is the fact that the turnover differential, Green Bay is a +3 and the Saints are a +1. Even though the Saints are a +1, Green Bay with their turnovers, just seems like they start out with better field position than almost anybody. Scoring defense, though, that's a little different. The Saints are 6th in the NFL, giving up 16 points a game. The Packers are 14th in the NFL. Not horrible, but and still in the top half of teams, but more middle of the road. They're giving up 22.5 points a game. The Saints have played, though, 2 bottom 12 offenses, and one of them's a bottom 6 offense, Carolina Panthers. So is their defense as good as the 6th? Well, I guess it is. I mean, the numbers say it's the 6th, but I think this is the most potent offense that they're going to be facing, especially if Aaron Jones and Christian Watson play. The Packers, however, have the 3rd worst rush defense in the NFL. And I don't know why, but Joe Barry will not get out of this stupid nickel defense no matter what time of the game it is. They could have 12 personnel on the field with multiple tight ends, and he'll still have, 4 linemen, 1 linebacker, and 6 defensive backs. And you're just sitting there scratching your head going, why do you play like this? Or why do you call the game like this when you know they're going to run the football? This bend don't break mentality from Joe Barry drives me up a damn wall. We have the bodies to run a more traditional 3-4. You can put Devontae Wyatt, Kenny Clark, and TJ Slayton on the field at the same time. I promise you, Joe, it's not against the law. You can actually do that. You can have 2 inside linebackers. We got a couple of good ones, Devondre Campbell and last year's first-round draft pick, Quay Walker. They're excellent inside linebackers. And then you still can have your 2 pass rushers on the outside. That defense can cover the run a lot better. You've got Jair Alexander and Rasul Douglas in your cornerback room, your 2 starting corners. And you got Eric Stokes coming back after what, game 4 maybe? Maybe game 6? And he's one of the fastest guys on the team. First round draft pick from a couple of years ago. Keyshawn Nixon is coming along. Not as fast as I would like him to, but Keyshawn Nixon is a very serviceable nickelback. Darnell Savage has played a ton better this year so far than he did last year. So play man defense and say, okay, you're going to have to beat us over the top and make them do it. I don't know if Green Bay is going to have to do it this week, though. Their running game, it took a huge hit with Jamal Williams going down with a hamstring injury. Alvin Kamara was already out. Now they are going with 3rd-round draft pick out of TCU, Kendre Miller. And they just promoted up Tony Jones Jr. from the practice squad, who was a college free agent in 2020 out of the University of Notre Dame, of course. So it will be interesting to see if New Orleans can run the football even against the nickel defense of Green Bay. If they can, Green Bay may be in trouble. If they can't, I think the Saints are in trouble. That is one of the big matchups in this game. But before I get to the rest of the big matchups, folks, we're in a quarterback-driven league. Everybody always says quarterback-driven league. So let's look at the tail of the tape between Jordan Love and Derek Carr. I'm not saying that this is necessarily who they are. We're only 2 games into the year. But Jordan Love has 6 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. He's got 118 passer rating, which is 1st in the NFL, and a 75.2 quarterback rating, which is 4th in the NFL. So for all of you haters that said Jordan Love is going to be crap, first of all, you're wrong. Second of all, he's playing pretty damn well. I understand he did not have a great 4th quarter drive in the 2-minute drill against the Atlanta Falcons. They're going to need to work on that. He's young. It was his 3rd start. So let's give him a little slack. Now, outside of that, he played extremely well. Next, Derek Carr. And Derek Carr will take some chances. He's won a lot of games for the Raiders over the years by doing that, but he's also stepped on his foot a few times. Derek Carr's got 1 touchdown, 2 interceptions, an 80.2 passer rating, which is 22nd in the NFL, and a 47.3 QBR, which is also 22nd in the NFL. The Saints, in their first 2 games, it's strange. They're in the first half, they don't look good on offense. There's just not any other way to say it. They don't look very good on offense. And then all of a sudden something happens in the second half. They get a big play. Their 4.3 speedster, Rashid Shaheed, catches the long bomb after Derek Carr lobbies for it on the sidelines for half an hour. And all of a sudden the offense starts moving. But on the road against Green Bay, if they wait until the second half to start doing anything, I think the game's going to be over. So they're just going to have to look at that, and Derek Carr is going to have to play better on the road. Hopefully just not this week. All right, we already talked about the Saints running game versus the Packers rush defense. I don't think it's the Packers rush defense being third worst in the NFL has a lot more to do with scheme than it has to do with players. When you're constantly put in the nickel because, like I said, Joe Barry loves the pass rush, secondary, turn the ball over. That's all great, except what happens if the team doesn't pass the ball against you and they just run it down their throat like Atlanta did to us last week, and you don't have a comeback for it? I don't know if Joe Barry is capable of calling a football game if he drops Green Bay into their traditional 3-4 on a regular basis. That's just not him. So, haven't been a big Joe Barry fan since he came to town. I hope it doesn't cost us this week. All right. The Saints receivers and tight ends against the Packers secondary. That's going to be good. I think that's going to be good. Michael Thomas, healthy. He's not the Michael Thomas he was from several seasons ago, but it's nice to see him healthy. Chris Olave is a budding superstar, and Rashid Shaheed is obviously a speed burner that if you blink, he's by you and in the end zone. Going up against some extremely good pass defenders for the Green Bay Packers. Rasul Douglas, Jair Alexander, Keyshawn Nixon, Carrington Valentine, the seventh round sensation rookie out of Kentucky, had a phenomenal preseason. Stood in for Jair Alexander several times against number 1 and number 2 receivers and did a great job. As I said, Darnell Savage playing better. Not crazy about Rudy Ford, but I mean, who else are you going to put in there? I mean, you got Jonathan Owens maybe. I wouldn't mind seeing the rookie. Let's see what Anthony Johnson Jr. has, the 7th round draft pick out of Ohio State. He's 6 foot, 205 pounds. Let's see what this kid has. If Rudy Ford continues to struggle, let's get Johnson in there and see what we have in this rookie. So that matchup is going to be an intriguing one because it could come down to that, because I think Derek Carr is going to have to pass the ball a lot to win this game. So that kind of goes into the next part of this. And this is where I think Green Bay has an advantage. I mean, if you want to call the receivers of the Saints versus the secondary of the Packers a dead heat, fine. I think that's a fair statement. Even though I think Jair Alexander, he didn't have a great game last week, but he may be the best shutdown corner in football right now. But the Saints O-line versus the Packers pass rush. And this is where it gets a little strange, because I think the Saints O-line should be playing better. They're just not. Whether it's running the football or passing it. Derek Carr's taken a lot of sacks this year so far. And it's strange because they're littered with high draft picks. Trevor Penning is a first-round draft pick. Ryan Ramczyk is a first-round draft pick. Cesar Ruiz is a first-round draft pick. Eric McCoy is a second-round draft pick. Andrews Pete is a first-round draft pick. But as of right now, he's been supplanted in the starting lineup at left guard by James Hurst, the pickup from the Baltimore Ravens. So I don't know why. It's puzzling to me why the Saints offensive line can't get it together. Maybe they will as the season goes on. But Green Bay has an extremely deep edge rushing room. It looks like Rashawn Gary is almost back to full strength. Obviously, they've had him on a play count. But when he's been in there, so for example, the first week, 10 plays, he had 5 quarterback hurries. I mean, he's a game changer when he's in there. Preston Smith, still a very good player. The first-round draft pick, Lucas Van Ness, he's played well. Kingsley Enagbare, Justin Hollins, the undrafted free agent, Brenton Cox. They are deep at pass rush, and Derek Carr's been getting sacked a lot, quite frankly, by defenses that I don't think have as talented of pass rushers as the Packers, talking about the Titans and the Panthers. So it will be interesting to see how that O-line holds up. I think that offensive line is going to give up a certain amount of quarterback pressures and even sacks to that Green Bay pass rush. All right. Well, let's flip this on its head. Let's talk about the Saints secondary versus the Packers weapons. So I talked to you in the beginning about all the injuries now for New Orleans. Even if Adebo and Amadi play, are they going to be 100%? Now, you could say that about Christian Watson. I get it. He's coming back for hopefully his first game this season. But you're already down Marcus May. They're starting 5th-round draft pick Jordan Howden at safety next to Honey Badger. So that's already, look, Jordan Howden is an excellent athlete, and he's a great kid, and I think he's going to be a good player in the NFL. But it's his 3rd game on an NFL roster, and now he's starting as a 5th rounder against the 2nd highest scoring offense in the National Football League. Even without Aaron Jones last week and Christian Watson, Jordan Love still moved the ball downfield. They've got some real weapons on this team. If everybody is healthy, which it looks like Watson and Jones are going to play, and Jones is just as deadly out of the backfield catching the ball as he is running it. You've got Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, Jaden Reed, the rookies, played outstanding. Luke Musgrave, our rookie tight end. All very impressive so far. And then, of course, Aaron Jones. That's going to be difficult for a banged up secondary for the New Orleans Saints. The pass rush of the New Orleans Saints versus the Packers offensive line, this is another area where I would give it to the Packers, with or without David Bakhtiari. I think that when you look at Cam Jordan isn't what he once was. He's still a good pass rusher, but he's not what he once was. Saunders and Shepard in the middle, pretty good. But in the pass rushing game, I don't know how much effect they're going to have. And then you got the other side, you got Carl Granderson, and then you have the 2nd-round draft pick, who I'd like to see get more field time, Isaiah Foskey out of Notre Dame. Don't get me wrong. I think the New Orleans Saints have a very good defense. But when you talk about the individual matchups, if we're talking about, going back to the Saints secondary versus the Packers weapons, I don't think their pass rush is going to be able to irritate Jordan Love in the pocket too much. I could be wrong, but I think this offensive line has kept Jordan Love clean most of this year so far, and I think they'll do it again. Last but not least, the Aaron Jones factor. Aaron Jones is one of the truly special players in the NFL. He's a 5th-round draft pick out of UTEP. He's one of the nicest NFL players you'll ever meet. Aaron Jones is just an all-around quality individual. But make no mistake, he's an absolute assassin on the football field. And you have to account for him every play, because you can hand it off to him in the backfield. One cut later, he's in the end zone. Then you saw in the Chicago Bears game where Jordan Love read the hot read, and all of a sudden Aaron Jones catches it going across the middle, and then he's in the end zone again. So knowing where he's at and watching who you put on him, because if you think he might be going out for a pass and you put a linebacker on him, that play's over. You can't guard him with a linebacker. So you have to account for him. He's like the offensive version of Micah Parsons. If you don't know where Mike is at, he'll blow up your whole offense. Aaron Jones is very similar to that from an offensive standpoint. And I don't think the New Orleans Saints have seen the offensive firepower that they're going to see this weekend, especially with it being rowdy crowd, home opener at Lambeau Field. It's going to be a difficult place for them to come in and win. My prediction for this game is the Green Bay Packers 24, the New Orleans Saints 20. I think it's going to be closer than most Packer fans would like, but this is still a young team. I think there's going to be some penalty errors and just some dumb stuff that we still have to clean up. I would love to come out and say that the Packers will win by 2 touchdowns, and they might, but right now, I mean, you've got Derek Carr at quarterback for the Saints, the best signal caller they've had in a while, even though his numbers aren't great this year. He's got some real weapons in the passing game and even in the tight end room. It looks like Taysom Hill is going to play, and he's a nice gadget player that can come in and cause some issues, especially if he runs the ball against Green Bay. And New Orleans has a very good defense. The New Orleans Saints defense, like I said, is top 10 in scoring defense. So this isn't a bad football team. It's a very talented football team. I just think Green Bay is the better of the two squads. I would say that on a neutral field as well. And I think Green Bay pulls out the 4-point win. So thank you, everybody, for joining me this week on Green and Gold, Till I'm Dead and Cold. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, share it, leave some comments for us. We will see you on Sunday, and we will see you next time.